So 67% of Americans drank coffee within the past day, more than any other beverage, including tap or bottled water. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Actually Good Coffee podcast, the show where we talk about all things coffee related, all while I drink a cup of coffee. I have a geisha, an anaerobic fermentation geisha brewing in the background from Nicaragua. We're going to be releasing it probably within the next day or so. So look out on Maiden's Instagram or website to scoop that one up. It is a bit expensive if you are new to coffee, but I can guarantee you it is worth it. This past week, we sold 743 pounds of coffee total. It's a slow week. If we're looking at last year, same week, we sold 643 pounds of coffee. So actually about 100 pounds more this year. Kind of strange to look at that as a slow week, but when we're looking at the past 3 weeks, obviously we were hitting 1,000 plus. So still making progress, obviously slower than the past few weeks. I know it's just because it's post Labor Day. Sorry, I had to turn my fan off. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, more volume than last year by about 100 pounds. Slow week because of the post Labor Day. Labor Day is one of the busiest holidays for us. So just kind of cooling off for the season, but we're still set to do a decent amount of volume this season. We have a couple more clients coming on, so we'll see how that goes. Today's topic I actually wanted to get into. It's a little bit different than what we've been doing in the past as far as certifications go, but it's the idea that more people are brewing coffee per household. This is an article that comes from Matt Haw, and his question is, does that really matter? Businesses have returned to normalcy since COVID-19. Many have made some minor changes, especially in the food and beverage industry and entertainment as well. But for the most part, everything has gone back to the same patterns that we've seen in the past. However, it seems that coffee is the exception. A lot more people are brewing coffee at home. The NCA reports in 2024, 83% of past day consumers stated that they had a coffee at home, up by 4% compared to January 2020, which was pre-COVID. While out-of-home consumption has grown since January 2021, it's still considerably lower than the previous year. The idea is that the reason for still such considerable growth is due to the prosumer market of coffee, which is the person that has the whole cafe style setup within their home and has created this type of coffee offering within their home on their own. So the president and CEO of the NCA, the National Coffee Association, Bill Murray, sick name, talks about how during COVID, the past day home consumption hit a record 85% in 2021. He believes in large part due to the idea of this prosumer, this at-home barista. If we're looking at out-of-home coffee consumption, the NCA's recent annual report, quote, showed an increase in OOH out-of-home consumption sales since January 2021. So in 2020, there was a 41% of out-of-home consumption. In 2021, it was a 31% of out-of-home consumption, and in 2024, it was 35%. So that continues to grow, while in-home consumption actually starts to trend down just a little bit within these past couple of years. I have the quarterly reports for the National Coffee Association. I'm a member, so I'm pretty fucking important. I have a subscription to the National Coffee Association. In the first quarter of 2024, we actually see about a 1.51% decrease in home coffee cups consumed. If we're looking at the second quarter of 2024, we see another 0.93% decrease in at-home coffee consumption. So I think that's just because people are finding it a lot easier to go to coffee shops, have their coffees made for them. A lot of these prosumers are starting to trend down just a bit, not really enough to where it's significant, but a lot of consumers now, as we've talked about in the past, a lot of commercial coffee drinkers are coming into the specialty market because they're seeing how much better it is. And especially with that crowd of people, you find that quick grab and go options of high-end specialty drinks. And it seems like the current economic state of the country really isn't having much of an effect on the bank account of the modern day consumer if we're looking at it from a coffee consumption perspective. It's interesting to see how the percentage of out of home consumption of coffee drinkers hasn't returned to the same percentage pre-COVID. COVID. We're only at 35% right now. I think that is because of just the rise in popularity of the prosumer. Even though less people are actually doing this, there seems to be a very strong social media presence with people who create their own cafes within their home. I'm sure you see these in your Instagram or X or TikTok feed, especially if you're listening to this podcast. I can't imagine you don't get those videos in your feed. Venusia Nogueira, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, the executive producer of the International Coffee Organization, states that the rise in home brewing changed how people enjoy coffee and elevated coffee knowledge among consumers. This has been a positive development, suggesting potential long-term benefits for the industry. So like we mentioned before, even though that number does even though the amount of people that consume coffee at home continues to fall bit by bit, there is still just such a large influx of people during COVID that number still remains really high in comparison to the other types of consumers. The NCA's latest report shows that drip coffee remains the most popular at-home brewing method in the U.S., with 59% of respondents preparing coffee this way. This number kind of has me hung up just a bit, up by 15%. I'm going to fact check. Let's do a fact check. So I have the NCA data right here. If we're looking at the top 5 brewing methods for at-home specialty coffee drinkers in January of 2024, drip coffee maker is at about 32% of consumers. Single cup brewer is about 25%. Ready to drink in a bottle or a can is 22%. Cold brewing, 17%. Espresso machine, 14%. So the drip coffee method that they're talking about at 59%, I imagine that encapsulates those top 2 at-home brewing methods, which is drip coffee maker and single cup brewer, but that only adds up to about 57%. So I don't know if that's just a basic math error. Maybe they're including the numbers of Q2 and Q1, and that's what the percentage comes out to be if we're averaging both of them out. I don't know. I only have access to Q1 of 2024. I don't know why I don't have access to Q2 of 2024. Maybe I will look into that a bit. One key note that this article actually mentions is that, quote, home consumption and the number of people brewing per household, however, have remained higher than pre-pandemic levels. Rising costs and tightened consumer spending have undoubtedly contributed to this. And as coffee prices are likely to remain high for the foreseeable future, consumers will continue to reduce their spending in kind. On the surface, it may seem that coffee shops and roasters should be concerned about growing at-home consumption, but businesses have found ways to adapt, including launching subscription services and strengthening e-commerce channels, and will contribute to do so. The last thing that I actually want to mention is that even though this at-home consumption of coffee continues to fall since COVID, there's no way that we're going to be able to keep up with that amount of volume with just the ability to actually go to businesses now. It's just not convenient. There seems to be an inverse reaction with out-of-office consumption and restaurant consumption. The NCA reports that the total past day consumption, just in general, is at a 20-year high. So 67% of Americans drank coffee within the past day, more than any other beverage, including tap or bottled water. That's insane to me. I can't. That's crazy to me. Past day specialty coffee consumption is also at a 13-year high. 45% of American adults had specialty coffee in the past day, up 80% since 2011, and continues to grow. What I like about Maiden is that we can kind of cater to both consumers. We don't have an actual brick and mortar storefront. We do partner with quite a few wholesalers, coffee shops, restaurants, hotels, things like that. We also have an online store. We're looking to build out our online store, especially, and our outside resources that we can add on to. Of course, there's only one thing at a time, so I don't have an exact timeline on that, but we will be looking to build that out. And the main takeaway, I think, from this article is that in any business, but for coffee specifically, it's best to be able to adapt to any sort of incoming trends, especially just to be able to diversify your offerings so that you can survive in any sort of environment. Because as we've seen in the past, the coffee consumer finds a way to continue to enjoy their daily routine in some way or another, whether it's actually going to a coffee shop or the restaurant or having it at home. It's just a matter of what the financial constraint is on their bank account. But again, doesn't mean they're not going to drink it. It just means they're going to find more affordable ways. So they buy the bag at the store, buy it online, prepare it for themselves at home. I imagine if the economy continues to trend the way that it is right now, people are going to revert back to that at-home brewing method, but we will just have to wait and see. So thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys again very soon.